And we are live with another episode of the Brownwater Banter Podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
It is Joey Cates. We got a good show for you. In the studio this evening, Senator Jeremy England is going to talk with us today about a new bill that just came out with the DMR and probable cause. I'm sure you probably heard a little bit about it if you've been on the socials here lately. We're going to jump into that conversation. But before we do that, we have to thank the people that keep the lights on for us over here at the Brownwater Studio. Right out of the gate, I know you know what I'm going to say. Dr. Robbie Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. If you're looking for a great local dentist, you can look them up on the socials at Southern Magnolia Smiles on Facebook and Instagram. They're right here on Washington Avenue in Ocean Springs. So it's 2026. It's time to get those pearly whites shined up and looking good. When you're ready to book that consultation, you can give them a call at 228-215-1202. If you or someone you know needs legal representation for any reason, Taylor & Cox Law Firm is the one for you. Tyler's been practicing law on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for Taylor & Cox has been practicing law for over 30 years. Tyler just took over a couple years ago. They specialize in felonies, misdemeanors, DUI, BUI, family law, divorce, child custody, you name it. They're right here on the Gulf Coast in Jackson County, George County, and Greene County. And if you, like I said, you or someone you know wants somebody to fight tooth and nail for you in the courtroom, you can give them a call at 228-696-0111 and tell them Brownwater sent you. Forever Young, men and women's health. If you're ready to get back to feeling better, prioritizing your health, moving around, just, get off the couch, I guess. Forever Young Men and Women's Health is the one for you. Their motto is bringing medicine, health, and exercise together to help men and women live their best lives. So Kendrick right here in the photo, you book with him. He'll do some blood work on you. He'll go over all your lab values and see if you're vitamin deficient or hormone deficient. They specialize in hormone replacement in both men and women, believe it or not. So if that's something you're interested in or got some questions about, he's extremely knowledgeable. So you can give him a shout at 228-363-6623 and tell him Brownwater sent you. And then bringing up the rear here is our buddy Brandon Webb over at Cedar Lake Power Equipment Sales and Service. As the name would imply, they're right there off the Cedar Lake exit off the interstate. And he just did his grand opening not too long ago. He's selling all of your outdoor power equipment needs, weed eaters, lawnmowers, anything to make your yard looking better. I know he's got Skag equipment, all the big brands there, man. And most importantly, at least in my opinion, they're doing the service side of things because nothing's more frustrating than buying something or having a lawnmower that needs repair and you can't get good honest work.
Ain't got no gas in it.
I reckon that's what I like about you. You think of the obvious. But yeah, anyway, you can give them a call at 228-206-0960 and again, tell them Brownwater sent you. So let me do a couple clicks here. I know, Joey, you're still slinging it out there
away,
for us.
man.
Yeah, that's all right. I appreciate you doing that. Let me click on here. Just bear with it. Anyway, so right there we go. Got it. Okay. Senator Jeremy England, man, thank you so much for stopping by this evening. We shot a message, saw a little post on Facebook that was getting some traction about an issue that I feel like is right inside of our wheelhouse. We shot you a message, and I know we've been working on getting you in here for a little bit, but we finally was able to make it happen. So thank you for being here this evening.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate it, man. If you could, for people that might be hearing about you for the first time, we always like to start with the guests, your backstory. Born and raised here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast? Is that a correct assumption?
That's correct. Yeah, I went to born and raised in Pascagoula, went to Pascagoula High School, graduated 2001, went to Mississippi State, got my undergrad there, got my law degree over at Ole Miss, and went to work for a law firm out of Gulfport right out of the way, but got married in 2008. My wife and I met in 2001, so we've been together forever. We got married in 2008. Set up shop here in St. Martin.
Sweet.
We got a couple of kids, and
Joey and I happened to graduate from St. Martin in 2001
also
too.
in 2001.
That's right.
So we're old together.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's right. So glad to have you in the community. Pasca Get Down Gula lost a good one when you moved over here, and we appreciate it.
Well, I love it over here, and love this part of the county just as much as the other part. So.
Yeah. It's the Gulf Coast is all family. We're all cousins. Is how I look at it. But I'm partial to this neck of the woods. So we're gonna get into the DMR bill and stuff like that. But I like to say we do the backstory thing, get to know you a little bit better for the people that are tuning in. Did you always know you wanted to become representative, or senator, but go into government, or was it law first? Like, how did that work?
Yes, I've always had a drive to do some sort of public service, and loved politics my whole life. Always kind of been a political nerd, kept up with that. But when I got out, of course, when I got out of law school, number one job was making sure I could support my family and get moving. And we kind of got involved in some politics, and I was president of the Republican Club here in Jackson County and did some things like that, worked on a few campaigns. And in about 2015 or 2016, my wife finally said, "Hey, when are you going to run for something?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, that's one thing I've been waiting on. I can't do it without her, right?" And so So we kind of started looking, and I was on the way home from actually taking a deposition in Jackson one afternoon and heard my buddy Michael Watson, who was the senator for this district then, announced he was running for Secretary of State. So I called my wife and said, hey, Michael's about to run for something else. That seat's going to open. I might make some calls if you're good with it, and let's see if we can jump in there and throw our hat in the ring.
Yeah,
she said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So I talked to my employer, right? It's a part-time job. I had to make sure I had their blessing, and they said, hey, as long as you keep up with the other work, go for it, have at it. And
I like the way you had to talk to the boss first.
That's right,
for sure. And then the boss for the job.
That's right.
That's right. If y'all know Melissa, she runs everything and keeps a great house for us. She's a great partner to have. But yeah, she was okay with it. She knew it was a team effort. And so we got out there. The first race was there were three other candidates plus me in that race, and I went to a runoff, and I ended up winning by 38 votes out of 7,500 cast in a runoff election. That was when Tate Reeves had a runoff against Bill Waller, so there was a lot of voter turnout, and I was in a runoff with a guy by the name of Wayne Linnup. He's an alderman over Moss Point, very nice guy. And actually, I got to know him well through that race, and we've become really good friends since that. I ended up winning the race, but I tell you, I couldn't represent Moss Point as well without him as a friend. So he's a really good person, and we work well together with that. But since then, we've been off and running. I got reelected with over 75% of the vote the last election, which was in 2023. And here I am, just finished my 7th session, going into my 8th session in the final year of this second term.
Okay.
Goes fast.
Yeah. You've been up there for a minute. What you said you decided in 16? Was that the 16? What year did you run?
Yeah, so I ran in 2019 was actually the election.
Okay.
The 16 is about when I had that conversation with my wife. Kind of started seeing what was going to open up. Because it all moves very quick. I mean, I ended up getting a different job. We ended up moving into a different house in St. Martin. So it feels like it was a very short amount of time. But as soon as I heard Michael, throw his name in for Secretary of State, and of course he won that, which is great for all of us down here. Running for Lieutenant Governor, by the way.
I heard that
too. So that's good. I hope we can support him down here. He'd be great for the coast. But anyways, so 2018 was about the time I started really campaigning, probably November of 2018, elected. That runoff was August of 2019, sworn in January of 2020.
Okay. Yeah. And this is just me personally want to know, what's it like when you walk into that first session? I mean, you're an attorney, so you got the law background, but is it like trying to drink from a fire hose? Like, what's it like?
That's a very good analogy, trying to drink from a fire hose. And I'll tell you, when I first got there in January, and look, I brought my family on a tour of the Capitol that first day because I had never really seen all of the Capitol, so we lined it up, very nice staff there. Got to see everything, got my desk situated and set up so I could get rolling. Well, that first session, January of 2020, I'm learning how bills are going. I'm attending everything I can, the inauguration and all that kind of stuff. But about the time we've passed our bills out of committee, passed them on the floor, sent them to the other end of the hall, COVID hits. So they sent us all back home. So I've just about got my feet under me and seeing how things work, and they sent us home. And then we had to come back a couple of weeks at a time for just a couple of days at a time. We had to have our fever checked, all that kind of stuff. We remember, it was not an ideal learning situation for
another fruit fly attack.
We have a fruit fly infestation, guys. If y'all see us swatting stuff, that's what it is. But
we'll get him.
Yeah, so eventually we're going to get him.
That's right.
Yeah, but so as soon as you get up there, you kind of get a little bit comfortable. We're like, hey, curveball, go back home, COVID. And that was, everybody knows how crazy of a whirlwind that was.
That's right. Yeah, and look, that's when I really realized how important the job is and how much I can do for the community. Because I started hearing from people that were out of work, right? And of course, Department of Employment Security was doing the best they can to take on everybody, but they went from like 20,000 unemployment claims a week to over 120,000. And so people, I helped a few people. Well, then word gets out on social media, so I start getting emails. I'm getting 500 emails a day, 1,000 a day, and I said, well, I got to try to do something. So Melissa would come up to my office upstairs, and we'd sit up to about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had a system where I could get, if I had people's names, last four of their social, and their claim number if they had it, phone number, and a blurb about what they needed, I could send their information in, and they would get a call, which meant they didn't have to sit on the phone the whole time. And so I was able to help a lot of people by doing that, but it was also a good way for me to to learn how to use resources and how to do things and
Trial by
work with
fire.
the agency.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So that was a really long year. It was a long year for all of us, but it was certainly a tough year to learn how the legislative process works, how to pass bills, and at the same time, how are we going to adjust for this new pandemic we're going through?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What you got?
What's your district? What do you represent?
Yeah, so District 51, which is like Area 51, if
There you
it's
go.
easy to remember.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I go essentially from Gulf Hills in the west up through I-10. This area is in it, and then I cover parts of North Ocean Springs, North Goche, all of Moss Point, pretty much all of Van Cleve, and then all the way over to the Alabama lines, the Phillips Lake area and all that. So it's a big district.
Yeah.
And then that's where it dips down and goes in and catches the eastern end of Petty Boy down the bottom. I don't have to campaign down there much, but it's fun to campaign down there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
If there's any voters out there, that's where I'll be voting.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So where was I going to go with that? So you get up there, you kind of learn the ropes, you're figuring getting your feet underneath you. And for people that don't know, I don't know that we're doing the greatest job in civics class anymore, but there's two chambers,
Probably
right?
not.
You got your senators and your House of Representatives, right?
That's right.
But how does it work when you get up there? How are bills assigned? I know there's subcommittees, right? But how do you get to pick what area you want to work on?
Yeah, so a lot of times, and anybody can drop any bill.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm on Ports and Marine Resources. I dropped this bill we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but I didn't have to be able to drop it.
That was kind of really my question because I don't know the answer to that.
Right. And so we'll have constituent issues, or we'll have seen something in the news that happens, or an agency will approach us, like CPS, Child Protective Services, talked with me about a bill this year. And so they'll either have it already drafted, or I can go deal with legal services downstairs in the Capitol, and they're the guys that know the code. They can, I can give them just a basic idea, like I would like to do this, and they'll draft it into a bill. I'll look at it, I'll get it ready, and once I'm ready to drop the bill, when I say drop a bill, we literally drop it into a hopper. It's got a little slot in it, and then the Lieutenant Governor's staff will come get it. He'll have it. They'll read it. They'll assign it to committees. And while we're doing that, the House is doing the same thing. So the Speaker's staff is assigning to the House committees. The next step in the process is you've got to meet with your committee chairman. You've got to get a bill passed out of committee for it to even have a chance.
Correct.
So once it passes committee, then it ends up on the calendar on the floor of the Senate or the House. It has to be called up by the chairman for debate. You have your debate on it, and then it has to pass that chamber.
Okay.
Once the bills pass the chamber or die, and look, a lot of bills die, and the process is designed to kill bills.
Right. Government's designed to be slow on purpose.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we have like 4,000. We end up with maybe 400, bills that end up passing. But then once we've passed our bills, House has passed theirs, the same process starts over. The passed bills go to the other chamber. They're assigned to committees, and then you have to, again, pass them out of committee, get them on the floor.
Right.
Now, if we make an amendment, or if the House makes an amendment to one of our bills, or vice versa, that goes into a situation where you can either concur with the amendment, and if you concur with the amendment, bill goes straight to the governor.
Okay.
Or you can not concur and invite conference, which means you get 3 senators and 3 House members assigned to this conference committee. They talk about the different amendments and debate it through, and then the whole chamber adopts a conference committee. No more amendments can be made to it, and then that will go to the governor. And that's what happened to this bill we're going to talk about here in a little bit with the DMR bill.
That's a
with
lot of eyes
It's a lot,
involved,
right.
Yeah, and when you say pass, just so people know, I mean, just literally the senators, when it's in your chamber, voting on it, right? You
That's
have a
right.
vote, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it's a tax bill or a revenue bill or anything dealing with money, it takes a 3/5 vote, which is a higher standard. Most things are only 50-50. You just have to have a simple majority to pass it. But there's different vote parameters. Now, if it's a constitutional matter, it takes a 2/3 vote, right? So, I mean, it just goes up from there. Nothing's unanimous. But the frustrating thing, and I don't want to say frustrating, it's really just something that I think people need to be aware of. When we first go back into session in January and all of these bills are hitting the website, I'll get emailed and they'll say, hey, I hate this bill. Why did this bill get passed? Well, no, the media is just taking the most juicy bills they've got out there and throwing them out there and saying, well, look, Mississippi's trying to do this, but most of the time those bills never see the light of day. They won't even come up in committee.
Right.
which isn't to say people should put them on our radar and let us know, hey, we don't like these. But the idea gets out there that, oh my gosh, guess what, we passed? No, we haven't passed.
They just need a headline
That's
to
right.
put on a story somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's. If we want to, you have something else before that?
No,
we jump into the bill?
I think that was it. Just maybe one quick thing because it literally just popped in my head. And real quick too. Also, Cody, we see you, and JL McNew is in the comments.
Yeah, I figured he would.
And we're
He's driving back home, so he should be.
And we're gonna get to the comments. We're definitely gonna do that. You talk about committee and the way government, state government's running too. Have we ever addressed? And we've had. Lieutenant Governor in here before. We've had a couple of state senators in here before as well. Have we ever got a new ballot initiative squared away since it was repealed?
Yeah, we have not.
Okay.
And look, that's a bill that I dropped one this year. Had a bill, told everybody I was going to get it for a debate on the Senate floor, and I did. The Lieutenant Governor allowed me to bring that out. We got it out through. It came to my committee. I'm elections chairman. Came to my committee. I passed it to committee, and then it was tabled on the floor. So we didn't get a vote on it, but we're still working on it. But even that issue, there's people that strongly agree, strongly disagree, and you have 52 senators, meaning you have 52 different ideas of how a ballot initiative should look.
Right.
I'm sure that's easy.
Yeah. And look, the House is 122 members,
Yeah.
so they've
Even
even
more.
got even more cats to herd over there. But we. I'll probably take another stab at it, but look, it's a constitutional guarantee. We need something in there, or we need to take it out of the Constitution. I don't see anybody wanting to do that,
No,
but if we've got the
not at all.
guarantee, then we need to have a process.
And is there any penalty or because how many years has it been now that we haven't had one?
I think that was 2021 or 2022 that the Supreme Court struck it down for. Just on the fact that it was unusable, it was unworkable the way it was written because we don't have 5 congressional districts anymore. We have 4.
Correct.
I don't know of any penalty. I don't know. There's probably some constitutional lawyers that could probably work with people and work it through a way. And look, the Supreme Court could eventually say, hey, here's the mandate to the legislature.
Y'all got to figure it out.
It's a right. Put it back in there.
Just as a citizen, it's frustrating to me. I hadn't thought about it in a while. Somebody asked me a question. I don't even remember what it was, and it triggered that in my head. And I was like, hey, I don't think they've ever fixed that. And it's like, to me, that's a little bit bullshit because that's a citizen's voice, right? Like outside of what y'all can do, if y'all have something that y'all can't agree on, like with the medical marijuana is where it's all stemmed from for people that don't know.
Right.
They got the initiative done, signed, and sent up there and was like, this is what we want.
That's right. And I'll tell you, just to tell you some of the concerns I heard since you brought it up, what we just saw happen in Virginia is a good example of the concerns that people have. They passed this ballot initiative that said we're going to redistrict our congressional seats, right?
Okay.
And they put it on the ballot, and the ballot had some words on it like, do you want your elections to be more fair? And it used words like
vague.
that.
That's
they got very vague,
terms.
and their court actually held it up for that reason and said, listen, this was kind of misleading. Like, of course, everybody wants
gray areas.
everybody wants fair elections, but they got enough signatures, and they only had to meet that 50% plus one threshold to do it, and they got it just barely. But that just barely went from a pretty fair split of Republican Democrat districts to 9-1. So ballot initiatives can be used in a way that they're not intended for, or they can at least pull some wool over your eyes and get some things like that. So that's why, look, it's not an easy, nothing up there is really easy, and it shouldn't be. It should be a process where we look at all the consequences and all the benefits before we come to some decision.
And if my memory serves me right, too, I do remember that the ballot initiative, once it was passed, whatever the initiative would have been, it got implemented in the state constitution.
That's right.
And I kind of agreed with maybe that ain't the best way to do it.
Right.
I just don't like the fact that it's never been fixed since then.
Yes,
So
and I think you're in the majority there. That's why I took it on, and I said, listen, guys, we're gonna at least have a debate on it. And we had a good debate. I hate that it got tabled. I didn't get a vote on it, but the vote wasn't going to go my way. I mean, it got tabled to probably save people from voting on it.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, well, I appreciate y'all letting me go on that little tangent there. I thought about it. I was like, well, I got a guy here who might know, so let's ask him. So,
That's right.
All right, the new law. How did this?
Let's get into it.
How did this come on your radar? Was there something that triggered it? I mean, let us know.
Let's explain the law first, and then
the law.
What is the law that we just?
Okay, so what this law does very, very plainly, it's a simple law. If a DMR law enforcement officer is going to stop or board a boat, the law will now require them to have probable cause before they can do so. That wasn't the standard. That standard wasn't in the law before, so they didn't have to have probable cause to stop you. So if you're on your way out of the harbor, DMR can pull up and just no reason whatsoever stop you, board your boat, check your gear, do all of that. And and now with this law being passed, they have to meet that probable cause standard before they can have that reason to stop and board your boat.
Okay. And I just want to say something too else that I just thought of too. Most people in our audience know this. Full disclosure, we are sponsored by the DMR.
Yes. Right.
They do one episode with us a month. We've had Captain Mike Strickland on here. We got Joe Spraggins coming up not too long from now. So we're just so you know, like we're having him on to talk about this.
DMR. He supports,
I support
everybody
DMR.
Correct.
All friends of mine. I think General Spraggins done a great job. I've got a lot of great friends in the DMR.
Yeah.
Still have them. So. It's not everything's not social media. We're not all
That's right.
ready to kill each other over something.
Okay, so the new law kind of, would you say is clarifies the right word, or puts it into law that they have to have probable cause, which is federally 14th Amendment. Did I have that right? Did you hear somebody say that today? Right?
Fourth Amendment. Yes.
Fourth.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not
Yeah,
14th.
okay.
Fourth.
Yeah. Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
But it's it's a due process type thing. You have probable cause type. Other law enforcement has that. And I don't know exactly when the standard's used. It's not a very high standard, but it's a standard, and it's something. When we brought this law up for debate, a lot of my colleagues said, "Well, don't they already have to do that?" Well, no. And as a matter of fact, Florida passed this law last year, and Alabama joined us this year to do this. So it's been a trend of people moving towards having probable cause as a requirement before you can be stopped and boarded.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this fell on your desk because your constituents were calling you and saying, "Hey, we got a problem here," right?
That's right. Yeah. It's one of the way our legislative process works. Anybody that ever has something they want to talk about, and if something I can do, I had a constituent reach out to me and said, "Hey, me and a couple guys want to talk to you about an issue we're having with these stops, the DMR, with certain things that are happening. Can you meet us at the Waffle House?" I was like, "Heck yeah!" So
matter of fact, I
that's
can.
right. Absolutely,
I
would
get
love
some hash
to.
browns.
Absolutely. So we met
If
at the
you
Waffle
said Denny's,
House.
that was a no. But Waffle House, I'm there.
Met at the Waffle House, and it was democracy at work. We talked about what the issues were. They actually mentioned to me that, hey, Florida's done this, so you kind of have somebody to look at. And that's what I love. Anybody that ever comes to me with an idea, if they can show me where another state's doing it, we can look. I refer to the states as laboratories of democracy, right? They're all doing their different thing, and we can see what works, doesn't work. Well, but we had a great law from Florida. We didn't do exactly what they had, but we did a variant of that. I learned that Alabama was doing the same thing. I heard these stories from these guys about why it's needed. And then they had other people reaching out to me. So it was a big constituent issue. There was a lot of drive behind it, and I said, okay, well, we're going to give this a go. And by the way, it passed on the first year. I dropped that in January. It passed the first year, and that's not typically the case.
That was one of my questions I had.
Yeah.
Is like, how the hell did it get passed so quickly? Because, like you said, government's slow. A lot of times these things don't even make it to committee, and this one hit the desk or however you say it, and then boom, passed, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
When did it pass in April, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh,
Yes.
just like very
Yeah, we got it passed. So we were out of there. We were really out of there probably about April 3rd, but we came back on the 15th in case we wanted to override a veto, which that's a whole other show to talk about what happened then. But it passed on the second or third to last day before we got it done. But again, that's because it went to conference, because there were changes made in the House. We didn't concur, just to give us some more time to put eyeballs on it and look at it and go with it, and that's how it went.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, to clear things up, this is just the Department of Marine Resources. This has nothing to do with the Coast Guard, nothing to do with wildlife and fisheries, nothing to do with the park rangers, nothing to do with even Harris County Police. Is
like
that correct?
Marine Patrol. 'Cause
Yeah.
these are the questions that we got
yeah,
personally, and we're going to get into the ones that are on Facebook here in just a second. But
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this is just DMR, and we got that question from a lot of people. Particularly people off the coast. Because they were like, well, why? If you don't represent or live below I-10 or in these three coastal counties, why does it?
Why do you care?
Why do you care?
Yeah.
But we kind of told them about the issue that was going on that we had talked about a lot. They were happy to do it, but I expect somebody to drop a bill and go forward next year with the same legal stop and search requirement for other enforcement agencies like Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Fisheries.
Yeah.
okay, well, let's hit one of the comments we keep mentioning here. J.L. McNews in the comments, he said it's a let's see here. It's a stupid law that cuts the DMR's ability to check license, safety, and anything else. So I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I read these comments, and I appreciate everybody that's concerned and has questions about this. Look, your resources are still going to be checked. You're still going to have your fishing license. You can still have that checked. That's a resource issue. That's not really a law enforcement type issue anyway. So now where it could end up being a question is if you're stopped for a reason and you get say you get busted with fish you shouldn't have or not having a license, and you go to court and your attorney argues, well, they didn't have probable cause to pull me over. That's where it's gonna happen.
Okay.
And if I can address kind of the elephant in the room, which, everybody that says it's a stupid law either says, well, this isn't going to change anything,
Right.
or, if you have a fishing pole, that's probable cause, or, they're not going to do anything. Well, anytime look, it is quite frankly a small change. And I hope that our boaters out there assume that it's not in law, right? You keep being safe, you keep following the law when it comes to your catch and, your measurements and having your license and all that. Do all that like you regularly would. But this should have DMR tightening up their reasons for stops and why they're stopping you, and maybe not stopping you on the way out and on the way back in, where it's just getting to be a hassle for a lot of people. Not stopping the people who are just out there enjoying the boat and doing stuff. But like Joey said, if you got somebody, swinging off the
T-top,
the T-top,
or beer cans flying out the boat,
they're going to get pulled over, So I hope people act like this isn't in place, but at least they understand that we've listened to the concerns of those constituents that thought there were too many stops happening, not for any reason. It was a hassle, anything like that. This is going to make the DMR look at their whole process and kind of tighten it up and make sure that they've got good reasons to stop and board a vessel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any more. Not questions so much, except we'll go with this one too. So the omega protein. Take that and run with that for me real quick.
Well, I think it got brought up about what was going towards you from
no,
Omega.
definitely about his political contributions.
Yeah.
But what's the problem with the omega protein that they overfish?
The big pokey plant, they're coming too close in. They're overfishing. They're killing all the redfish, doing all the trout and stuff like that.
And then so people are saying, how much campaign money are you getting from Omega to ignore what they're doing, yet focus on probable cause with the DMR.
Right.
Yeah. So look, we always talk about omega protein and what's going on. It's always a hot topic. CCA is really, really big on that topic. People, like I said, I grew up in Pascagoula. If you get a northeast wind that blows the pokey plant, look, you can't. If you've got new people in town, you're telling them, hey, that's the pokey plant, not
it's not me.
Don't roll the window down. Keep the window rolled up. In the car. But yeah, so it's an issue, and I think that people are always trying to push them further and further off, and look, they need to be careful with what they're doing. They're using those nets, they're purse seine nets that they're pulling up catches, and whether they have a bycatch, what they're doing with it, and they're put under the scrutiny of everything. Where I have to understand is that I've got, I do represent the city of Moss Point.
Right.
They're right there in the city limits. They're a tax producing company that hires people and does good things. So look, they deserve a seat at the table for sure. But I think you're going to see a lot of things change with them. I'm not ignoring them for any other reason. We had a bill that went forward this year that did some things that I worked on that was trying to get them within a mile north or south of the barrier islands. And I worked on that. Now, it doesn't get the attention that this one did. This one passed and got through. I don't think that one maybe made it through, so it didn't get the media. And to answer your guys' question there on the comments, I have received contributions from Omega Protein. I think it's been like 3 years since they gave something to me, and it was like $1,000, maybe $1,500. And look, all of this is another civics thing for everybody that wants to know who donates to our campaigns. If you go to the Secretary of State's website and you search campaign finance reports, you can search, Committee to Elect Jeremy England, and I'm legally required to go put everybody in there. I'm an open book. I don't hide anything. I think everybody needs to do it. But I can tell you, over the past 7 years, if I've raised $150,000 for campaigns, because campaigns are expensive, and that's why we have to use it for specific purposes. But Omega's maybe given me $1,000 or $1,500, and it's been a couple of years now. But I hope that answers the guy's question. And look, I'm an open book, but anytime I'm at odds with anybody on an issue, the easiest argument for them to make is, oh, you're bought and paid for, and that's not the case for really anybody up there. We don't get to use these monies for anything. I've sent money back before. I've accepted money from people before, that gets all tricky, but it's a part of the politics. I couldn't afford to run a campaign in my district without having contributions, and the contribution I appreciate most of the $10 and $15 from the people that I represent that help me out. I mean, and that helps tremendously, and it's a big donation. But to put that $1,000 to $1,500 what I do with it into perspective, I don't go buy signs. I don't go buy different things that do me good. A lot of times I sponsor a football team like in St. Martin or Van Cleve or a sports team because that gives it back and it helps. And usually those are about $1,500 level scholarships. So so that's probably, you could say that's where it went. But I'm not in the pockets of Omega Protein. They know I'm not. Matter of fact, everybody I deal with up there knows that I'm an honest broker. I'm not the type that you're going to give anything to and swindle. I'm here to represent the people. It's an honor to do this job. But look, that's part of politics too, is having people say, "Oh, you're just bought and paid for by the other side."
You don't have a 60-foot sport fish sitting down at the Golden Nugget that says Omega on the side of it.
I don't have that. No.
Just making sure.
No. And Mr. JL's a real good guy. Y'all probably get along because you duck hunt, he duck hunt.
Yeah, I love to hunt.
He's a real good guy.
I haven't been duck hunting in a long time, but I've got to get my son down. And I was just, I just went on a tuna trip the other day, and I was looking at all these casting blasts. I've got to bring my son's 15. Never shot a duck. I got to get him out there and get him.
Okay. Went out of Venice, right?
Love it. Yes, went out of Venice.
And these kind of things too, like you said, it's part of politics, right? I think the most important thing in anything, whether it's a relationship or whether it's politics, is dialogue.
That's
right. And if he's got things he needs to say, I say them, right?
That's right.
And you're here to answer them too.
Yeah.
So
and look, Waffle House is a great place. You don't want me to meet him there. You don't have to buy my breakfast.
I'll meet you a lot of shit over All-Star Breakfast.
That's right. That's right.
So we got some more coming in and I'll just read them out here. And it's a good one to start too. Shannon, let's see, Shannon Skipper White. I like that. She said, "What would be some good examples of probable cause? Seeing fishing rods in the rocket launchers. Is that
explain probable cause? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Look, if you're speeding through a no wake zone, that's obviously going to be probable cause. If you're
that's damn near everybody right there.
Right.
So good luck on that. Pull them all over.
That's right.
Everybody does that.
Oh, I know. And if you're following too close to boats or you're acting dangerously. If you're openly, I guess maybe openly drinking and seem to be intoxicated, or if you're, being a nuisance out there, doing things that are unsafe that you shouldn't do, that's going to be probable cause. Now, if they see a fishing rod and I don't know why you would bring a fishing rod and not go fishing. They may want to check.
You could do that. You think you was going to go and not
have it.
or
not
just
fish.
keep them on your boat at all times. I mean,
some people use them for flagpoles.
That's right. Right. The big Trump sign hanging off the back of the fishing rod. Right. Well, maybe camouflage them as flagpoles, right? I didn't give that idea.
Right.
It would be an idea maybe, but yeah. Look, those kind of things are there, and I've read the comments say probable causes. If people want it, they're going to get it, and yeah, maybe they will, but if you get to a courtroom, that's where it's really going to become an issue. And I can tell you, I've got a lot of respect for law enforcement of all agencies, and I've got a lot of friends that serve in it, and they hate going to a court and losing anything for a technicality like not having probable cause. Mm-hmm. This really should help DMR tighten that up. They'll find a way to do their job within this constitutional right that we have to be able to do that. And look, as long as people are boating safely and doing the right thing, I agree with those comments. And I hope this is a law that nobody realizes, that it's even there. Maybe they just realize, hey, we went out this summer, we got to enjoy the water, and we didn't get stopped 3 or 4 times on the way in and the way out, because hopefully those things will go away.
Yeah. Staying with the fishing pole thing, you brought up, you said it, I think you said it already before, but if they stop you with a fishing pole, it is a resource stop, not a, what would you call the other stop?
Like a law enforcement stop. For breaking another law or
and they're still allowed to do that as long as you have a fishing pole. They still have the jurisdiction to stop you for a research stop. Correct?
That's right. That's right. We didn't put anything in there to prevent that, and I don't know that we would. I mean, we all, those of us that are into conservation and into fishing and all that. Now we get that it's a pain a lot of the times. I wish there was some way if you get checked once on your way in or something, we could make it happen. And there's things we could maybe work on that, but we didn't touch that this time. We're not keeping people from, the idea is not, I think somebody mentioned it may have been the guy that asked the question about Omega. This was just for my snapper fishing buddies to go out and load their boats and come in and get away with it. And No, that's not what happened. Matter of fact, snapper fishing didn't even come up at the Waffle House. These were guys that are retired and go, fishing for flounder and speckled trout from 7 in the morning to about 10 in the morning, and go back home.
Okay.
And we're getting stopped or different things like that. So
Joey, you're saying the fishing pole. I mean, is it just as simple? Is it just as simple as seeing a fishing pole in a rocket launcher or on a rod holder on the side of the boat, and that is instantly probable cause for a resource check?
Correct.
Or the other part would be if they see you at a known wreck with lines over, they can still that is probable cause to come up and say, "Hey, what's on the boat?" Is that correct?
I would say probably.
Okay.
And again, a lot of this is a legal standard. We've added a legal standard to the process by which they can stop you. So a lot of this is going to have to be litigated in the courtroom to figure out where those lines are, where they can be drawn, what they can do, and that's how the whole legislation system works. We put these into law. It gets adjudicated if it needs to be, and if we start hearing people like, hey, this needs to be tightened up, or maybe this needs to be brought back out, we can work through it. And this was, quite frankly, this was a baby step. Like I said, we didn't go all the way that what Florida does. We just required a probable cause standard to whether you could stop, with the idea being that we see fewer useless stops and more focus on things that need to be focused on, and hopefully people that are just out boating, doing it safely, enjoying the Gulf Coast,
follow the rules anyway.
Following the rules, go out and do it, which is the most of the people.
Right.
What did Florida do? How further did they go?
So Florida did a few other things, and these aren't bad ideas, and we still looked at them. But Florida has I believe you can sign an affidavit that says you've checked your list and you have all of these items. And if you send in that affidavit, they'll send you a sticker that you can put on your boat that says you've been, checked for safety.
Okay.
And you've done all that. I don't know what that does essentially under that law, because they did add the probable cause standard as well. But there's some incentive to doing that, and I think that's a great idea. I think that if we could have boaters and had the DMR set up a place where, look, hey, if you come by this weekend, we'll check your boat. We'll give you, you sign this. We'll give you the sticker.
Put it through the Chick-fil-A drive-through.
Yeah, we'll check it.
That gets you too quick, though.
That's right.
Chick-fil-A gets you
That's
too
right.
quick.
That's right.
You mentioned, Joey, the Coast Guard at the federal level does that now for, is it just charter boat captains or any vessel?
No, so you can call the Coast Guard, and they will send somebody out, and they will check all around your boat, make sure you have all the safety equipment, and they will give you a sticker that's good for 1 year.
Okay.
And usually if the Coast Guard sees that sticker, they're going to say, okay, you're good, carry on. So having that for the DMR would be a great idea if they had the resources to do that. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah. I'll read a comment here from Angie that kind of goes on what we're just talking about here. It's kind of a long one, so I'll read it out. She said, I, for one, have no problem getting pulled over. If you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. I think it keeps everyone safe. Some people don't have the proper safety gear, and a safety check could save a life. And I say that now as to just what Joey just said and what you're saying here as well. There are ways to be able to do that where you do a safety check that doesn't involve just pulling someone over that isn't necessarily doing anything wrong to check for safety. And what I will say to that is, Angie, and it's a good comment and we appreciate it, you always have to, whether you're talking about DMR, state level, or what I think about when I watch the news is the federal level.
Right.
You always have to protect your rights as a citizen. And it's great to say, oh, we should do this under the guise of safety, but every time you allow somebody to encroach, not talking about just the DMR, encroach on your rights as a citizen, you're losing. You're losing something. And this is a microcosm of that. But I just think it's a good thing to keep that in mind when we say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. You can do whatever you want.
That's right.
Right? For any agency.
That's right. And look, I'm a constitutional conservative. I agree with what Angel's saying there. If you're doing right, you don't have anything to worry about. And that should be most everybody. But at the same time, we have constitutional rights. We have, the flip side of that would be, well, I have a boat. I'm safe. I want to drive out to Sand Island and enjoy my afternoon and drive back in, and I shouldn't have to be stopped 4 times and boarded and go through all of that just because I'm going out to enjoy, the liberty of taking my boat out to the island. So it goes both ways. And like I said, there's always different sides and people that agree and disagree. But the fact that she commented is wonderful because it gives us that perspective. It gives us that idea. And most of us do read these things. Some of them get a little out of hand, but we read them and try to take that into gauge what people want to see happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you have to these days.
That's right.
Because most of the stuff that goes on, or most of the debates, unfortunately, happen on social media. So
Yes.
Well,
you know what I'm saying. So
yeah.
you got to check it out and see what's going on. I'm sure
That's
you
right.
don't comment on all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'll try. I get in trouble sometimes for doing it, but
Oh, I mean, to me that is good to see that you're willing, any elected officials willing to like respond to that, because it is a slippery slope that you can get,
That's right.
pulled into. Social media is not designed, in my opinion, to debate really anything, but it is how it's done today. So
Yeah.
what else you got?
With this law being in effect, it just came in April. Have you talked to the DMR about how they're going to assess the law?
Not since it passed,
Okay.
but I talked with General Spraggins a few times before. And he told me, he said, look, we've got some concerns, obviously. They like being able to do the safety checks. They also understand, and look, a couple of the stories I shared with them, they said, oh, yeah, we heard about that. That was an unfortunate stop, and that happened. But we had a very good conversation.
Right.
And he said, look, pass it, and we'll work on it. I mean, General Spraggins understands that the legislature, creates policy. We enact these laws, and then they operate within them. And if there's any issues that they have with those, they have a good relationship with us. They can come talk with us and tell us kind of what needs to work better. Now, this was one of those things where, you either had probable cause or you didn't. There wasn't really a, well, let's do this, but maybe do this and this. I mean, it was a very easy, very simple thing. And they kind of knew it was coming, and we talked to them, and I think they'll operate within it. But look, we're dealing with them on a lot of different things all the time. Seafood labeling bill, they're always very
and
active
that was in the
with.
paper today about the shrimp, right?
Right. We got some
Yeah.
good results, starting to turn it
Yeah.
around. Yeah, that's good. The oyster fisheries are always a big hot topic that
Right.
we're working with them on. Tidelands issues. So, I mean, we have a great relationship with the general, with all of his officers. I'm very good friends with a lot of them. Look, I'm sure this isn't their favorite law by any means, but we'll keep working together and keep kind of figuring this out as it goes. And of course, if I have constituents that call me and they have concerns now, I can call them and still tell them, hey, look, what's going on here? How do we fix this? Okay, we'll just let us take care of it. We'll talk to that officer or whatever. Or they'll tell me, hey, you're getting the one side of the story, which has happened. Hey, you're getting the one side of the story from the knucklehead that was, just being a jerk at the dock.
Right. Yeah.
And so I said, okay, of course, that's it. So look, a dialogue is always good. And I think they'll be okay with this bill at the end of the day, and it may clean up the stops and make them more productive in the long run.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to read another one off here.
Yep.
This is from Joe Wilson. He said, I'm all for it. He said, thank you, as this was sorely needed. No more officer camping at the ramp. And before you even get to the dock, lines secure, getting the old, hey, buddy, when you're done here, I'm going to have to pull you over for a safety check.
Right. That's right. Yeah,
So-
and that's what we're trying to get out. Joe can hopefully launch and head out and enjoy his day without having to deal with that.
Yeah.
What about, because sometimes DMR also has, I wouldn't say altercations, but stops on land. Does this do the same thing on water as on land?
Yeah, so that's something I looked at the very end, right before the end of the session, was whether vehicles would count. I don't think they do. I don't, but stopping and boarding, it says stop a vessel. That could be read to be any stopping and searching part of their job, because that's really all where it is. So it could impact it, but if we need to come back and touch on that later, we can.
Okay.
But that's one of those things that at the end of the session, it's kind of like, do we want to look at this and revisit this? But I think we'll see how it plays out to decide whether we need to go open that back up and specifically say vehicles.
And here's a really good one here from Chandler, and I'm going to touch on real quick, and then you can follow up.
Absolutely.
Chandler, thank you for this question. This is great. He said, what should voters do if they believe they were stopped without probable cause under the new law? This is a great question, and we've had Captain Mike Strickland sit right there at that chair before and explain this to us. And
Great
to me,
guy.
I know a lot of law enforcement officers that I've talked to outside of the DMR. I mean, this is how you should handle this situation. If you feel like you did not have the officer did not have probable cause, keep your composure.
Still be polite.
Be polite. Understand that he's doing a job. The whether you're in a boat or you're in a car or whatever, the traffic stop is not the courtroom, right?
Right.
You tell them what you need to tell them. You answer the questions.
And the yes sir, the yes ma'am goes a long way.
That too.
Yeah.
But also, don't turn. You see these people on social media where they think they are an attorney and that's the courtroom right then and there. Nobody wants their rights infringed upon.
No.
But like you've mentioned already a couple times, we'll take it to court and then we'll figure out whether you had probable cause or not.
That's right.
And we'll handle it there. I'm gonna. I might speak my piece a little bit and be like, hey, man, I don't think this is right, and I think you're out of line here, but go ahead, write me the ticket, give it to me, and let's be done here, and we'll handle this in court, right? You agree with that?
I agree 100% with that. I think that's the perfect answer. Litigate the issue in court. Let your attorney argue the probable cause deal. You say the officer doesn't have probable cause isn't going to get the officer off of your boat.
Correct.
It's going to be that's going to be for another time. But yeah, be respectful. Understand these guys. I mean, they're not getting paid $1 million to go do this.
Right.
That's a service type job, and it's a dangerous job, and they're doing it. And who knows what kind of day? You have bad days, they have bad days.
That's right.
Let the stop finish. If you feel like you've been wronged, call your attorney and talk to him about it, and do it that way.
Yeah. I don't think anything's ever been solved by like losing your shit at the scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You call Tyler Cox if you need a good
There you go.
lawyer.
This guy.
Look, I like Tyler. Tyler's a good guy. And you're right. Yeah, call Tyler. But yeah, don't. You're not going to tell the officer, well, you don't have probable cause, and have the officer say, oh, okay, you're right.
Yeah, my bad.
See you
right.
later.
Since you got louder, I figured it out more.
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
how that
Make any
works.
sense.
That's right. Be smart.
Yeah.
What else? What you got?
That was mine. But mine was on. My question was the defining the water land where that's
right. That's a good question. Yeah.
What happens if you open that back up? Explain that process.
Yeah, so if you open the code up, and look, that's a lot of times why things take a long time. Like once there's a bill dropped and that code section is open, it can be amended. Other things can be put in there. Other things can be taken out of there. So people are really careful about doing it. But if we have something we need to change on that, like if we need to add vehicles to it, if I start hearing from people say, hey, I'm getting pulled over just because I'm driving through Ocean Springs Harbor, and I get pulled over and stopped and checked and all this kind of stuff, we can just go back and add vehicle to our vessel if we need to. But again, I'm not sure we'll need to because I believe that's the entire section that deals with stopping and searching. So if you have to have probable cause to do a stop and search, the vehicle that you're in or the vessel you're in really isn't the key component to that. It's the standard that you have to perform a stop and search.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a couple more Chandlers nailing them with the questions, and I appreciate that.
Good.
You're doing a great job. Are there any regulatory? I was going to ask this too. Are there any regulatory updates coming next that the boating community should be aware of for this year, or either foreseeable future?
Yeah, I don't know, but that'd be a good question for the general and about regulations and things like that. Because look, we're not the legislature. That's assigned to the department, right, to deal with resources. And as far as like, I assume Chandler may be talking about. Lengths and different limits
Safety
for
laws
fish,
and stuff
maybe.
like that.
Okay, no, I took it as like legislative stuff.
Okay, so legislative stuff.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we had anything other than that. We did do some, not for boating. This was pretty much the only one that deals specifically with boating. Now we did amend the seafood labeling bill a little bit.
Let's talk a little bit about that because that's in our wheelhouse. Yeah.
That's right. So we added some provisions that help out your grocery stores. Because they get they still have to label it. But it's a different way because when they put stuff in a shelf, it's tough to have all kind of different things labeled. So the idea wasn't to put them out of business or to keep them from selling seafood. So we've gone to that. We also said if you sell Chilean sea bass on your menu, you don't have to put Chilean sea bass and then underneath it put imported because you're selling Chilean sea bass, right? So we've kind of corrected a few things there because. Obviously, if you have somebody that's claiming to sell domestic seafood, and we want domestic seafood to be sold, you want that to be properly labeled versus something that's imported. But we also have to remember that there's restaurants that like big restaurateurs, they might print a menu, once every quarter, and it costs them $10,000 to print a menu all across the board. We don't want to have to keep coming and changing that, and we want to make it as easy as possible for them. And then like things that I didn't think about when we passed this the first time last year. What if you have a seafood casserole, right? And you've got, shrimp that's domestic, you've got crab that's imported, or you might have something else in there. I mean, do you have to list out every ingredient and talk about it? So we're trying to work through these things. And that's a good example of where we do something one year. It doesn't mean it's permanent and etched in stone and, it's in the Bible. We can come back and change it the next year or the next year as we kind of work with these different industries and different people who are impacted by it and try to make it a law that does what it's intended to do without the unintended consequences.
Yeah.
I saw the WLX write-up on it, and I read the comments, and most of the comments were saying, where can we find the list that sells it?
Right.
Is there a list that says, these are the guys that sells it? These are the guys that don't.
Sells
Is there
what?
a list?
Sells what?
Sells the local shrimp compared to the
Okay.
import
Yeah.
shrimp.
I got you.
Yeah.
I don't know of a list, but they are supposed to be labeling it now.
I
Yeah.
feel like the DMR has something like that where they had a list somewhere on their website about.
Yeah. I remember seeing it, but I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember seeing it. But that was most of it. It's like, if you're going to do all this research and all this testing and pass all these bills, can you at least tell us who
Right.
we need to go see and who we don't need to go see? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's something I think. So when you guys had the general on, maybe I'll comment on
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah,
and have
yeah,
y'all
yeah,
ask,
yeah, yeah.
ask
Yeah,
General
you could be the
Spraggins.
armchair quarterback.
right. But look, I think he wouldn't have any problem with it. And you're right. If you're going to spend the money to go research it and figure out who's doing it, put it on there. Now, where they may not want to is, that's a commerce issue. Are they helping versus
Do
hurting?
they want to put somebody out of business just because they're not
That's
selling
right.
imported shrimp?
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But we all do want. I mean, look, we all need to support local fisheries and support our domestic products as much as possible. So I'm glad that we've got this law going, and I think it's something that should help our local fishermen as well as our local restaurants that do this.
Angie said, Joey, that she sent you the list, so there must be a
Oh,
list
okay.
somewhere.
All
So
right,
maybe
all
check your phone
right.
if it's
Yeah,
over
yeah,
there. Chandler, dude, we appreciate the comments. See, this is in the weeds, like this is deep. So
Okay.
if you don't know the answer to it, understandable. But he said, how will this new law affect enforcement on oyster leases and seafood transport inspections where compliance checks were previously routine?
Yeah, so I think, again, that's going to be a resource type check. So there's probably not going to be much of a difference on that because those are more resource based and fisheries based stops.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if they're just stopping people on the way out and they don't know that's what they're doing and they don't have a reason to stop them on the way out, then that could be an issue.
And let me see if I can clarify this, just like because I'm hearing it the same way. Like when you say a resource check, would that be something that the license that you have to sell oysters or the license you have to sell to transport seafood? It's in that law that you have to be checked versus just
so many
somebody
sacks or
versus just somebody that's out on the water driving a recreational boat on their own. Is that
that's right?
A better way to think about it?
Yeah, because otherwise, why are we even doing those things, right? I mean, if you're having to tag your tag your oysters, and that's another bill we had. We passed a law that said that you can print off your own oyster tag. Like if you're an oyster guy and you've got your stuff at home, you don't have to go get them off this special paper anymore. You don't do this. You just because the point is we just want them marked and labeled as when you harvested them, where you harvested them from, and all of that good information. But that's resource type stuff. So they're going to check and make sure that you're doing that, or that you got your license, or that you're that you're properly harvesting the oysters and returning them the best way you have to. And those guys go through a whole pile of classes to be able to do it. It's really cool. I've got a good buddy that does it. And they're great oysters. It's all the off bottom stuff. I've gotten where I really enjoy those. But those are more, when I say resource, that's what I'm talking about. Like the Department of Marine Resources, one of their biggest jobs is to make sure that people are harvesting seafood safely, not just safely for the boater and the fisherman, but safely for the consumer. And then the same with our limits on like speckled trout and redfish, that those are being abided by. But those are resource type issues.
What I think of too is like if you're a federal snapper permit holder, you operate under a different set of laws. Again, that's federal, not state. But there's things that you have to do that are different than just the average boater that's going out there and going to Horn Island or whatever whatever he's doing.
That's right.
You're just different, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and well, if you're in an oyster boat on a Mississippi oyster farm,
right.
They're going to be able to stop it.
And again, if you're sitting at a known snapper reef, right, and you're not moving, you're not underway, you got lines over, I'm sure they can come up and check your catch.
Yeah, they can.
Whether that falls under probable cause or resource check or whatever it is.
That's right. That's right. And again, at the end of the day, the question of whether they had probable cause is a courtroom question.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to do what you say or what I say. It's what
right.
Tyler Cox and the judge has to say.
That's right.
No.
I dig it. I dig it. if you got comments, get them in right now. We're about to wrap it up, but I will just say, so we touched on obviously this bill, this law, and the labeling of seafood. Are there any other things that are not just boating specific, but Gulf Coast specific that you can give us a heads up on, or make awareness of?
Yeah. So I was really disappointed that we set up a revolving loan program for the GCRF funds, right? So GCRF is the BP money, BP oil spill money.
Right.
That's something that we had been working to try to do. And what we mean by a revolving loan fund is like if a company's wanting to locate here, and we can give them a 2-point below prime loan to get started, and they pay it back. That way, this money that's scheduled to run out in 2033, this is this is a legal settlement, so it's going to those funds are going to stop coming in. We want a way to have something built up that we can keep using for the Gulf Coast moving forward. We had that set up this year, and the governor vetoed it, and we couldn't get the votes to override the veto on that. The entire Democrat caucus was against us on it,
Really?
And so that's 16 or 18 people. Now they had their reasons, and it wasn't to do with this; it was politics, but.
Right.
But they weren't going to vote with us to override the veto, so we've got to go try to do that again next year. And the question the governor had was whether we're going to have MDA, just MDA, Mississippi Development Authority, overview these loans. Well, we had SMPDD looking over the loans, South Mississippi Planning and Development District, I think. But they already do a lot of this, so they're very well able to do it. Now, we would still pick the projects. They would just help, with getting things done. Bottom line, though, is we're trying to find a way to turn this, $30 to $40 million or whatever it is we get every year into something that doesn't end in 2033. We want to have it. We want to have a fund there so whoever's the senator in 2050 can say, "Hey, we've got this good development project in Hancock County. We want to be able to offer them a loan. They'll pay it back and get it rolling." So I hope we can do that. That's one thing that affects everybody that I hope we can get back.
Now, when you said 2033, the BP oil spill money expires, does that mean we're getting a constant? There's not a pot out there that we got to spend before 33 we lose? No.
Okay. We get it.
Okay.
We get a set amount every year,
Okay.
and there's 3 different ways we get it. It's Restore Act. Some of it goes directly to like DMR, and look, it's kind of like Go Mesa and other things that we've got to spend down here. Now, Go Mesa and tidelands, you're restricted into how it can be used. It has to be used in a way that betters the resource or the ecology, the ecological system down here.
Right.
It's got to work on those things. BP money doesn't have to do that, but we get 30 to 40 million every year through 2033, and we could just pot all of that and just save it. But we
ain't doing that.
We
ain't doing that.
Well, it's damages, right? It's damages from the oil spill, and we're trying to help make some transformational changes for the Gulf Coast. And I think there's been some good projects come through.
But boy, what a disaster that was.
Oh, it was.
It sucks, and this is even before the oil spill. But Katrina, the piers that have not been rebuilt. Is that something that and the docks and all that stuff, is that something that money could be used for?
Yeah, so tidelands is very good money for that. So tidelands is where you have property that's state property, like the casinos are on. So usually the water's edge, but casinos, a lot of people that use this, they pay rent essentially to be on the tidelands frontage.
Right.
And so that rent money goes into a tidelands check, and it's about $13-14 million maybe every year or so. It might be more than that. That's just kind of what we get to divvy out. That's perfect for piers. That goes for piers. It goes for boat launches. It goes for repairs, either creating boat launches or repairing boat launches. One that Jackson County was really big about this year is that launch. It's kind of in the Gulf Park Estates area, and I forget the name of it, but there's just no parking. So they've got everybody parking on the side of the road. So we work to try to get them some money. They're going to create a new parking lot there. But that's where tidelands is very beneficial. But if it's a personal pier,
right? Yeah, you can't do anything about that.
Can't do anything about that. But the state piers and county piers, city piers, we're trying to keep up, and we do it through tidelands.
Right.
Yeah. I like it. I don't know. I think is there anything else you want to tell us? Like anything that people need to know? We got a Gulf Coast audience here. You want to pitch to them?
Well, I'll say this. So 2027 is right around the corner. It's going to be a big election year. There's going to be a lot of people running for governor, lieutenant governor, different
changes coming.
That's right. And look, I'll be running for Senate again. I love this job. I feel like I'm finally getting my feet under me, getting dangerous up there where I can make some good things happen. And I love it. It's such an honor to represent everybody. But we do need to be sure that the people that we're electing statewide are aware that, the coast, number one, can help elect anybody that wants to do it. But we expect you to understand how things work down here. We want our economy to thrive, just like we want the rest of the state's economy to thrive. And we don't want to be kind of left out of the conversation when it comes to things. So make sure that you're listening to a lot of those. And look, we've got a statewide guy that's coastal already running. Michael Watson running for lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's going to have the coast at heart because he grew up in Pascagoula.
Right.
But that's going to be very important. Another thing I would say, and this kind of happened last year, and I think you guys might have talked about it on a previous show, and I don't want to jump into it because it'll be a long conversation.
Yeah.
But early on in the year, kind of like I mentioned earlier, you're going to see a lot of bills get dropped, and these bills are going to say different things. Well, next year, going into a campaign year, a lot of big juicy bills are going to get dropped, like teacher pay raise for $7,500 and things like that. Like, you need to let those kind of flesh themselves out before you really buy into what the number is, because that hurts us. And honestly, I hate it for teachers, and I hate it for people that see that and they think, oh my gosh, we didn't get this, we're only getting this. Legislative process and especially budgeting issues have to work all the way through. So when you hear of a bill in January, I would say, if you support it, obviously let us know that you support it and you want to see it go through. But understand that some of that's going to be weeded down and work through the process.
A lot of blowing smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try not to do it because I hate it. I hate people thinking, well, at the end of the day, we got 2,000, but we were promised this. Well, we got to do what we can afford too, and that's kind of where that all comes through.
Do they just make that number because they're shooting for the stars?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
like ask as high as you can.
I can get it, and then you throttle me down.
Yes, sometimes, and especially early on. And look, the House and the Senate, there's always gamesmanship there. The Senate may throw out a higher number knowing that the House is going to say, oh, we can't afford that. Or the House is going to throw out a big number, and the Senate's going to have to be the bad guy and come back and work it back down. And that's unfortunate. I hate it. That's one of my least favorite parts about politics, but it's something that I think...
The politics part.
Right. It is. But if your listeners are aware of it and just know that it's happening, they can hate it just like I do, but I don't. It's wrong for people to think that they're going to get what's dropped on day one, on day 90, because it just never works out. But when we look at all the process, and we've funded all of the agencies and funded everything, our state employees or somebody we need to remember are there, and that we need to give them raises when we can. So I hope that helps. I don't know. It's just something that if I have an audience, I would like to let them know that to be aware of that. Also, I'll say, look, we're all very approachable people, whether we're Republicans or Democrats. And if I can say this too before we end, we all watch the national news and see how things are in Washington, how bad it is, the deadlock and the headbutting and this and that.
It's like you can't get anything done.
That's right. Well, we're not like that in Jackson. Okay, look, I'm a staunch conservative Republican. Some of my best friends up there that I love having dinner with and talking to and checking on their kids and their wives and just keeping up with them are Democrats. And we get along together and we work with them. Like, if I have a bill that I know they're going to have a problem with, I'll go talk with them about it beforehand and tell them, look, I'm going to bring this up.
Go to Waffle House.
Right, go to Waffle House. Like, look, I'm happy to talk about it and work with it through. We have some very good state legislators. We especially have a great coastal delegation, but all across the state, whether Republican or Democrat, people seem to be there for the right reason. They seem to want to talk to everybody. Senator Albert Butler is from Port Gibson, so he's Southwest Mississippi, Democrat. Always on the phone, returns just about every phone call. And he sits right behind me, and he's older, so he talks on speaker. So I'm hearing him back there, doing the thing, right? But I mean, he is calling everybody back.
Headset,
that's right. But I love him. He's one of my favorite people up there. We don't always agree on policy, but I'll tell him, Senator Butler, you had a full day. You finished off. I don't know if you called everybody back. It seems like.
Yeah. Well, honestly, that's good to hear. That it's not exactly like we see on the news, at least for Washington. Well, no. Buttonheads is a good thing, right?
Right.
That's a good thing if you do it respectfully.
But if you butt heads too much and you can't move, then that's where it gets gridlocked.
Respect and then open dialogue, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, look, I caught some flack for a picture after our first year, and I was fist bumping with a Democrat, and that was just too much for some people on social media to deal with. But I said, look, guys, I haven't compromised any of my principles.
Right.
My values are still the same. I'm still a conservative Republican. But if you're worried that my convictions aren't strong enough to where I can go talk to somebody that has a different opinion, then what do you trust me being for here anyway?
You got to do it anyway.
I'm going to go talk with them, and maybe they have great ideas, and I try to remember, there's. When we're all trying to get to that same goal, which is a better Mississippi for our kids, for our families, we want jobs to be created here, we want all this. I might want to take the right road and they might want to take the left road, but there's all kind of these options in the middle that we can
Let's
get
go
there.
gray. Yeah.
Right. And what's more important, winning the far right or the far left or getting to that goal? And it's always should be that goal. And I think that a lot of us keep that in mind. We vote against each other a lot. Obviously, we have different ideologies, but we're friendly with each other.
Right.
We get along. And even if we do battle it out and have debates on the floor, we can just have a drink afterwards and ask how your wife and
Smooth it
kids
all
are doing,
right.
kind of
Gentleman's
thing.
respect.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's a good thing.
Where do people need to go? What's the best way, whether they're in your district or not, to let their voice be heard? Let them, hey, I hear of a bill, or I got this idea, or like the guys did, pulled you into Waffle House. I got this problem. How they get in your ear?
Yeah. So email and Facebook message, and I'll say this, that doesn't always get us, because if we get, if there's a hot topic issue and I'm going to get 500 emails in a day, yours may just get bumped up. I don't want to give it out here, but I'll say that my cell phone is available on my, if you go to my Senate webpage, you get me, right? I don't have a staff. None of us have staffs. We have a legislative assistant, but we all share them. But I get people all the time say, hey, your office didn't return my call.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you want my office, you need to talk to my wife. She's the one that runs everything, make sure everything's operating. But yeah, you're getting me, you're talking to me. And I will say this, I wish people would, when they interact with us on social media, they would remember, I would like for them to remember that we are, look, sometimes my kids read
Human
that.
beings, yeah.
We're humans, sometimes some of us are jerks, but we're not all jerks. And we will try to read through that and take it off. But I think the approach, I don't get turned off by any of it. I have pretty thick skin, but other people, just approach them, just give them the issue. Send them a reminder, send them another reminder. And what I'll do when I finally see your third or fourth reminder sometimes, because that's just what it takes, I'm going to send you my cell phone and say, hey, will you text this to me, and let's figure out a time to meet. And so it'll work. Again, we don't have staffs. We all have regular jobs. It's a part-time legislature. If we're home on the weekends from legislative session, a lot of times we're doing family time. We're
Baseball,
going to the ball
football,
fields.
islands,
we're doing that kind of thing. But we're not ignoring you on purpose, or at least I'm not. So if you go to the Senate, the legislative website, you can find all of my information there. Facebook messaging is also, it works. It's not the best, but I try to keep up with that.
And I just dropped the link to your official senator page on Facebook in the comments. So if people are, right there, just click on it, it'll take you straight to it.
Yeah,
so,
perfect. And I love hearing from people. The best ideas we get for the legislature come directly from people sometimes, because we get so bogged down in the big issues, school choice and income tax elimination and all these things. They kind of take all the air out of the room. But if we have people keeping us grounded in the issues that are important, we can get things done. Like this, just like this bill that we talked about here tonight. That's how we get things done.
And nobody knows the issue more than the people that are affected by it and living
Correct.
it. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so, that's right.
Well, it was a literal Facebook comment that got you here when this whole thing came out. I dropped and said, hey, we'd love to talk to you about this, and we made it happen. You showed up. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being approachable. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come in here and talk with us. So that means a lot. We really
clearing it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Absolutely.
Anytime y'all have an issue like that, y'all call me and we'll get back on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to have more of these. That's something that I really enjoy doing, is talking politics. So anytime you got a big bill coming up, anything that affects the Gulf Coast specifically, obviously, let us know and come jump on and
look, I'll get a couple other legislators in here. We'll have
we would love
the
that.
whole thing.
Absolutely love that. So,
that's right.
So thank you very much. Thanks everybody that watched in the comment section. That everybody kept it pretty respectful, and I appreciate that as well. I hope we all understand. Everybody's working to make the Gulf Coast better, the fisheries better, the resources better, right? And protect that.
And not one person's the bad guy.
That's right.
We're all working together.
Like we said, we've got the DMR, General Spraggins will be in here. I know Captain Mike Strickland's coming back. So we're going to hear from their side, see how it affects them and their day-to-day. So we want everybody's opinion on it too. So, but like I said, I think everybody's working to make the Gulf Coast a better place and the resource to maintain and protect that. So
100%.
If y'all keep tuning in, we'll keep doing them, and we'll see you on the next one.
Later.
Thanks so much for checking out the show. We really appreciate the support. If you haven't downloaded the Brownwater Banter app yet, go do it. It's free in the App Store and on Google Play. We have everything covered for a day out on the water. We've got the tides, the radar, Tails and Scales app. We've got a radio station right inside of it, and it's all free. All of our content is in there. You can listen to the show directly inside of the app. Make sure you keep your notifications turned on so you can stay in touch with us as we go live with guests in the future and plan events. If y'all keep tuning in, we'll keep doing them. We'll see you on the next one.
Saltwater Banter.